Cruelty Squad is often called an ugly game. I disagree fundamentally. Now, the graphics are hard for my weak little eyes to look at for a long time, the mechanics can be confusing and challenging to learn, and the game itself is overall a pretty hostile experience that seems to specifically hate the player. And I mean, that's not even getting into the music. I mean, let's just talk about that music, huh? Actually, no. Let me just show you the music. Now, normally, on their own, a game with any one of these elements would turn me off and I'd be rushing for the refund on Steam, probably around the 110-minute mark of the 2-hour period of trial. I hate gameplay that's intentionally frustrating to the player, I really don't like cruelty for its own sake, and I might not know a lot about graphics, but I know what I like, and the dev and me seem to fundamentally differ on that count. But I played Cruelty Squad for 30 hours. I don't think I'll play it anytime again soon. If I can go 1,000 lifetimes without ever hearing, it will be too short of a time to recover. So, why do I love this game so fucking much? Well, fundamentally, it is a game that is so utterly dedicated to its own vision that it basically breaks every norm of FPS games aesthetically and mechanically. From the second you experience the game, there's this deep sense of purpose and direction. Every garish texture, every sloppy sound, every frustrating mechanic is purpose-built. It is a tile in a mosaic. The entire game is very purposeful in its actions and its want, how it wants to make you feel and how it wants you to see the world, and so it all comes together. Cruelty Squad is a world in which death has been cured and capitalism reigns supreme. You come back to life every time you are killed, which will be often. You progress through the various difficulty levels by dying. The more you die, the easier the game gets. The first time you are killed, you are treated to a screen that reads,
"Divine light severed. You are a flesh automaton powered by neurotransmitters."
Die a few more times and you are informed that you are wasting company resources and are now made into a new biological mechanical thing that can consume human flesh to survive. One of the principal ways to make money is to tear people apart and sell their organs on the black market. It's okay, they'll be brought back to life anyways. Everyone is. Another way, funnily enough, is fishing, an oddly calming activity you often do between mass murder and destruction. I like the juxtaposition of these two methods. It feels like the game is intentionally making fun of other games that give you an endless list of things to do, often boring and pointless and grindy. But remember back in my Cyberpunk video when I said I could read the game as possibly saying that capitalism promotes a dog-eat-dog mentality? This game is very, very fucking explicit about that. From the moment you start, you're told you need to adopt a corporate mindset towards murder, to your targets being environmentalists, people who fucked over the CEOs, the CEO you just helped get revenge on someone who fucked them over, biocurrency nerds who bought their own cruise liner. The game is not shy about the fact that everything you do is in pursuit of your own self-interest, and that everything and everyone around you is to be seen not as human, not as a full being with independent life and thought, but as health packs and cash. And this applies to the player too. In one beautiful pair of levels, you go from the handler calling you a
fucked up freak
and sending members of the titular Cruelty Squad to kill you, to sheepishly asking you to forget about the whole unfortunate instant. But hey, I mean, you did kill your landlord, so was it really so bad? And let's talk about that handler for a bit. His dialogue is absolutely beautiful at setting the tone for the game.
"Money is, like love, blind and largely based on transactions. Once you get rid of him, we will be able to install our own CEO who is more attuned to the concept of mass human sacrifice. Don't you think it'd be really funny if you just went in there and killed them all?"
He's the only character in the game with meaningful interactions with the player that do not end with bullets flying into a brain case. Your own, well, companion isn't the right word, business partner? But his dialogue is part of that unrelenting horror show of the game, setting the tone of each level and forcing you into a mindset of murder and mayhem. And God, is it fun to adopt that mindset. I found myself hunting civilians for the delicious meat and brains, kicking them and watching their bodies bounce around like rubber balls, all with the handler watching and sending you cash. The mechanics of this game are also strange in a really weird way. My favorite example is reloading. Because this game actively hates you, it maps your reload key to the right mouse button. You know, the one you use to aim in most other FPS games? You must then drag the mouse down, holding the key until you get an audio cue. It is entirely possible, thanks to the loud music and enemies, to fail to reload during a firefight despite having ample ammunition. I love that. It is so cool. It builds this sense that these are brutal, short, and decided by the last shot fights. And like any good cyberpunk dystopia, it is full of body mods. This game, of course, has its own twist. Instead of a grappling hook, you have a grapendix, a piece of your own intestine that is so slick with mucus that it grips to things. Instead of a double jump, you have gunk boosters, which use, and I am quoting here, assorted biological detritus to propel you upwards. One of the mods in this game is a full, fleshy, autonomous suit of body armor with no disadvantages. Here's what it looks like when you put it on. All the games have weight that slow you down, so you can easily over-equip and be unable to actually move when you enter the game. The speed mods that counteract that turn you so fragile as to make glass butterflies look down upon you in pity. I eventually found a combination that worked for me, relying hard on powerful weapons with the ammunition gland, which is a biological implant that grows ammo for you. In short, this game is a cacophonous, beautiful mess of a video game that seems like nothing about it should be appealing, that actively seems to hate you, yet combines into a addicting, difficult, and very unique FPS experience. But then there's the strangest part about this game. What it taught me about French surrealist philosophy. I refuse to apologize for my pronunciation. Fuck Cloud and Sartre can suck it. And I want to be clear that this video is not about me solving Cruelty Squad. This isn't a theory video or anything. It is at most me talking about the strange rabbit hole Cruelty Squad sent me down. You see, each ending of the game, of which there are 3, is composed of surreal discussions of the situation. In the first, you walk endlessly towards a tower, ever approaching and never reaching, as text that goes from comical, that tells you that you've learned to forgive and love other people, to the creepy, saying that the sun smiles down with malice, all while you keep walking towards an unreachable tower. In the second, you stand before a glitching, distorted face with the word life superimposed.
I weep,
It says.
You are a rotten husk. You overflow with endless power.
It tells you to have a CEO mindset. The third ending is the strangest. It's the longest, with passages upon passages of surreal dialogue explaining that you peel the universe apart until there is nothing left but self-recreation of the universe. You destroy everything and rebuild anew. And then it ends with a quote. Cruelty Squad ends with a quote. For a game so obsessed with imagery and standing on its own without lore dumps or helpful guides, seeing it directly cite someone is bizarre. Specifically, it quotes Georges Bataille, a surrealist philosopher famous for concepts I find insane, interesting, and very relevant to the game. The most famous of which is the accursed share, his theory of life and energy, how the world functions, and frankly, on a civilizational scale, an explanation for the rise, decline, and creation of empires and violence. According to the theory, if my understanding is anywhere near correct, energy is something that is gained and wasted according to the basic needs of animals, and in modern society there is an excess of energy. The energy must be spent in some way, but there is too much for it to be used on defending oneself, getting food, or fucking procreatively. So what does one do? They make art, they have kinky sex, and most relevant to the game, they kill, kill, kill. War is an outpouring of excess energy. Georgie was particularly interested in human sacrifice, seeing it as a destruction of energy and outpouring of what could not be used. He loved the Aztecs, by the way. In Cruelty Squad, death is ended. The energy outpours, but it has nowhere to go. The world fills up and up and up, and there's no release valve. There is no edge for which the glass may spill over and be empty of liquid again. Pressure builds, society is listless. Death has no meaning, you can be gunned down over and over and over again in constant, unending, cruel torment. Every time you are resurrected to kill again. You kill people whose entire homes are made of Funko Pops. You kill people who speculate on biocurrency so they can have sex with slaves on a cruise liner. You kill environmentalists in a toxic swamp, but no energy is released, nothing is output. You and your victims are resurrected. We have nothing but input, and the accursed share grows every single day. So you kill, kill, kill. You eat the flesh of humans and sacrifice hundreds to your need for just a bit more HP. The accursed share is made manifest in every action you take, in every level you play, and you are a rotten husk overflowing with energy. The whole world is. But that still didn't explain its aesthetic sensibilities to me. Then I started reading a little bit more about surrealism, and I came across Antonin Artaud. Oh boy, Antonin Artaud. Silence. There is a noise as if an immense wheel were turning and moving in the air. A hurricane separates them. At the same time, two stars are seen colliding, and from them fall a series of legs of living flesh with feet, hands, scalps, masks, colonnades, porticos, temples, amblex, falling more and more slowly as if falling in a vacuum. Then 3 scorpions, one after another, and finally a frog and a beetle, which come to rest with desperate slowness. Nauseating slowness. That's a stage direction from one of his plays. Jet of Blood, if you're curious. These performances are impossible, intentionally so, and they're born from Artaud's surrealist philosophy and mental illness. He died in a psychiatric clinic and struggled his entire life with schizophrenia. Jet of Blood, like many of his works, cannot be performed. Attempts to do so exist, but they fall desperately short and horribly awkward, as much as I respect the attempts to perform them. These philosophies culminate with his belief in the theater of cruelty. Performances designed to highlight the surreality of life, shocking and assaulting the senses in a way that jolts you out of complacency and forces you to see the world in a primal way, disconnected from the fluff and pomp and false reality that we all live in, where we are all disconnected from what matters. At least that's what I think he meant. This shit is weird, man. But he was limited in imagination and thought, writing impossible plays and theorizing about potential and possibility of showing someone the cruelty he envisioned. Well, Artaud, welcome to the modern era. Welcome to the theater of cruelty. As I read more about Atois and Bataille, began to respect Cruelty Squad on a more fundamental level, not just as something that came together in a fun way, playing with tropes and preconceptions. It understands precisely what it's doing on a philosophical level. Its roots and connections are manifold, and even though it is a very obtuse game, these ideas are woven into its goddamn DNA. And that is something that's very difficult to do for games, to show clear philosophical underpinnings without explaining it to the player. Cruelty Squad's only indication that it's about, or could be about, these concepts is a quote you get at the very end of the game after playing through each level, including multiple hidden levels, after destroying an Archon grid and hunting through the HQ of the titular Cruelty Squad, after finding the Cradle of Life, after endless plays of Trauma Loop. I got it. The one little puzzle piece that helped it make sense to me. That put the pieces together in a way that worked like stepping back from a mosaic and seeing the full picture after admiring each tile alone. Even if you want to take the perspective that somehow the dev had no idea who these people are, just chose shit at random to throw into their game, the lens provided by this sort of philosophy is too good to ignore. That sort of unity is an art form, one I haven't seen other games really do. Cruelty Squad expresses its ideas about cannibalistic capitalism, the murderous nature of the world effortlessly, its opinion on the human person and the value of life with ease, its aesthetic and philosophical underpinnings are propelled with such a single-minded focus that it is a stunning game you could dissect for hours without even touching the names Artois or Bataille. That is what it makes Cruelty Squad, for all of its eye-piercing, ear-annihilating sensory overload, a beautiful game. But I am never playing Bog Business again. Hey everyone, thank you for watching. Like the video, subscribe, hit the bell, all that YouTuber nonsense. Really like it? Well, I do have a Patreon. Get scripts, early videos, stuff like that. This video has been a long time coming, but not because it's particularly complex or personal. I recorded the audio, I want to say maybe 6 months ago. I've just been, as the kids say, going through it. COVID, university, burnout, moving cities, getting a new job, house hunting, getting published, the good, the bad, and the ugly means that this channel has sadly gone neglected. I'm now in a place where I can actually work, write, make videos, stuff like that, at a far slower pace than I used to, but I'm okay with that. I'm not going to let myself burn out again. But since it's been nearly 10 months since I made a last video, I just genuinely